Hi and welcome to PHP plugin development course. This time we are going to develop this word filter plugin where you put the words which you want to filter, and if in any case these words happen to be in any post, like here I have play and run, and you see that I have them in here, they are gonna be changed with the world you decide to change. This time it's golf. But if I go to my options page and change it to, let's say, dog, and save the changes, after loading the single post page, you see dog and dog. So each time the words which we want to filter are being changed to the one we choose. It's a nice practice to understand how we can make these top level menu buttons, make submenus, and how to work with database like we did already one time in a video which I will share you in seconds. But actually this time it's gonna be more of practice with our own styles and also with a lot more than we had in the previous video. So with everything having at hand, I am gonna go to my plugins and this top plugins part and deactivate my word filter plugin so as it's gone, and so as we are able to start creating one more time, but this time together. So in my PHP Storm browser, what I am gonna do, I am going to create a file and call it word filter PHP word that's filter.php file, and I want to add this. Okay, and now let's start our job. So what we need first to have our plugin visible, it's our WordPress main data, and let's start from plugin name, and let's call the plugin word filter tutorial, and then we can add a couple of more information like description. It's gonna be, yeah, if I'm correct, yeah, so a plugin to filter the words. Later I'm gonna add also the name of the author, which is me, and also let's add version, which is always good to have if you are having a huge plugin, although that's not the deal that we are gonna have today. Reloading the page in our plugins and we see word filter tutorial. Let's activate the plugin, and yeah, it's here, but it does nothing actually because we haven't written any code yet. So let's start it. No, I can keep this folder area open. Actually, my screen is too big at this moment. Yeah, just working on my chair and we are gone. So first of all, let's stop direct access to any plugin, and usually you will see in most of plugin it's being done so as no one can access the files of your plugin directly, and we are passing it like this. Let's fix my ABS path is the constant name which indicates the path of the plugin, and if in any case it's not defined, we are just going to exit. That is it. So let's add a comment to exit if accessed directly. So this part is done by us. Now let's start actually working on plugin. As we have done in previous video, I urge you to follow my first plugin development video, then to go to this, because I'm not gonna go into details much. That's, for example, for object-oriented programming. I have some explanation there why we use object-oriented way in plugin development. So let's call it word filter, and it's done. And let's create an instance of plugin. So let's call it word filter is gonna be equal is gonna have the value of new instance of the class. So new word filter. We are done. The class is being called and we can start doing our jobs. I'm gonna leave some space and I'm gonna start from construct function, public. Which is being called every time when an instance of the class is being initiated, like we have done here on 21st page. And let's first start by adding an action. An action is gonna be for admin menu, and we are gonna call here a function where we are gonna say that the function is inside this class and the name of our function is gonna be our menu. This is the first part. We are done and I think we are ready to go to creation of our menu function, which is gonna make already visible changes inside our WordPress dashboard. Currently we are still seeing nothing, so let's start coding. It's gonna be we called it our menu. We don't have actually any arguments to pass in here, and we can start. So first of all, we need to add a menu page in order to have a top level menu, like you can see in here inside posts, media, or pages. So getting back to our development course, let's start adding our information. Now, first of all, it's our page title. So the page of the title could be, for example, words to filter. And the second one is gonna be menu title. We are gonna call it menu filter in our case. You are free to choose any name you want. And then the capability. So we want this available for a user which is able to manage options, which, if I am not mistaken, is gonna be only the admin. Now let's add a menu slug, and why don't we call it something like word filter maybe. You are free to choose any slug you want. And the last one is a callback function, which is essentially going to give us an ability to add HTML inside the page. So in my case, it's gonna be an array, and as we usually do, we are gonna call this keyword, and let's call it word filter page. We don't need actually any function type in here, but am I correct in everything? Yeah, let's do the closing part like this, and let me try to remember if I need icon URL. Do we need an icon? Yeah, let's call an icon from WordPress. Now let's choose one actually together. The icon is the one that's gonna be appear like on the left side, an image. We can load our own icon, but actually I don't want to take some time on that. I'm gonna use WordPress dash icons. So let's Google it. And WordPress is gonna suggest us what he has. So let's choose one, something interesting. And I'm gonna choose this plus button and see dash icon insert. I'm gonna copy this insert and basically paste the value in here. So And the last thing that we want to do together is to understand where our menu is gonna appear. So let's say I put 1, it's gonna be in the first position. So it's not like the first is it's gonna get the highest number among the plugins gets the higher value. So if, for example, this one is 5, the one is gonna be up, or if this is 100, the value of 5 is gonna be the first. So this is actually the way it works. And let's continue by adding submenu page. Let me explain you what we need the submenus. When you click the pages, you see always the first thing is the one that actually is being opened by clicking this. So there's no difference if you click this or you click all pages. Maybe it does not make sense to you, but actually this is kind of proven way of how the things are working inside WordPress. So let's add a submenu page and start adding information in there. I'm gonna follow the same rule as I have done for our menu, just to make things more beautiful. And inside submenu page, first it wants the slug. I want it to match the slug which I had for this one, for the menu page, because they need to match, as I told you just seconds ago. And the second one is gonna be page title, and I'm gonna again get it from here. And then we have menu title, let's call it word filter, just do everything kind of matching one to another. And the capability is gonna be manage options. And menu slug is gonna be word filter. It's all the same as in the upper part, but do we need any other? Yeah, probably. Yeah, we need the function too, but if it's callback, let's call the same. As I told, everything needs to match in this case, and we are done, I guess. No, nothing else to add in here. And now let's pass to creating our word filter page function. I'm gonna create it right below our menu. No arguments in here, and I'm gonna put HTML in here, so I'm gonna close PHP before opening, after opening tag, and reopen it and restart PHP right on the closing semicolons. And what I am gonna have is, first is gonna be a div with the class of wrap, and inside wrap I am gonna have an h1 text calling it word filter. And let's save and test all these, reloading our WordPress dashboard, and we should have been able to see it already. Let's see why we don't get this yet. And let me think for a moment. I think we did everything needed to get already this dash icon in here. Let's go back to our PHP storm and see actually what we have done. Yeah, it needs to be add action, not I misspelled the letter and reloading the page. And probably I have more misspellings actually, but the rest should be okay, I think, because actually I did the code as it's actually supposed to be done. So we called our menu function is being called, and we have also a sub menu page. Yeah, and the reason we were not having this because I activated wrong plugin actually. This is the plugin we are working on, that's why we did not see the chance. Let's deactivate this one and put this back here. And here you see word filter, and if we access here, we see our word filter page. and because these are matching our menu and submenu, we still did not get any other options right below, but we will. Let's move forward. And just under our h1 tags, I'm gonna create a form, and action is gonna be, let's leave it better because we will use default WordPress handling. Like in last video, we did not do default WordPress handling. We did our own way, our custom one, but this time we will let WordPress handle everything. That's why we don't need to have any method here, any like action here. We just need to specify the method, which is gonna be post, which is of course the safest way of handling this kind of data. And let's now discuss what we need to add inside our form. So let's add a label, and the label is gonna say what we are gonna do. Let's say enter, let's leave for empty until we make our input, or we will make text area, it's will be better. And let's call it enter, comma, separated words here. Our label is ready. Now we can start doing our text area. And what we are gonna do new today is the fact that we are going to have our own styles. We are going to write our own code. Now let's leave class empty and just make text area and see what an ugly thing we are going to get. And basically inside this text area, I think I don't need anything like columns or rows. Let's leave it empty. But of course we are gonna need a name. Without the name it's not gonna work. And let's call the name, for example, plugin words to filter. Yeah, we got the name, and our text area is ready, but actually let's also try echoing the value from database as soon as the options are saved. So this is how it's gonna happen. We are gonna do echo. I'm gonna leave security later. Let's now just write our code. Let's write get option as we have been doing. And the option that we are gonna get is gonna be by this name. But now let's get back to security. You don't get anything from database without sanitizing your data. So I'm just gonna do also escape text area, which is an essential security tool for us. And in the end, maybe a user like left some spaces, and that's why like trimming is always a good option for us too. So let's also on the top of this add a placeholder before for the user to understand how they are gonna do it, like bad, good, player, just some words that user can understand how to write his own words in here. And the last part of course for us is gonna be the input. The type of input is gonna be submit, and let's put the name submit to, and give it a class. Okay. We'll give it bootstrap classes button primary. Oh, good. We are getting suggestions, and the value is gonna be save changes. Let's save this and see what we got actually. Let's reload. Let's try to save. Nothing happening because we still need to add some more information before we can move on. Before we actually write a function which is going essentially save that what we typed in here inside the database, I want us to fix this ugly looking code, and this is really not the most beautiful code you can have in your life. And for this, now we are gonna study how to add our own style sheet to WordPress. For this, in our construct function, where we added our action, or I think it's not really needed inside here because we don't need to load this style sheet globally for all WordPress plugins. We just need for this particular plugin, and that's why let's add it here, and it's being done by using add action hook. And first is where it's gonna be loaded. To reach this effect, I'm gonna save this inside a database, and call it load main menu, so as I can access this value. And the way it's being done, it's being called load, and here we write the name of the variable where we save this add menu page information, and if I paste this here, everything falls into its places, and it accepts the second parameter, an array, where we will save where a function which is gonna give more information to WordPress, where everything is stored. Main page, let's call it main page assets, and right below this our menu, let's make it in the same style as the one before. Let's create that function, so let's call it public function main page assets, and here we are gonna include the script, and the same function that you would call for your in website development, the same works in here. So let's call the first one, for example, filter admin CSS, and now we need to tell WordPress where is the file located. First time let's show the location of the file, and then I am going to create the file for us. So for this I'm gonna call a WordPress function plugin dir URL, and inside here I'm gonna get the path of the plugin using file constant, and I'm gonna concatenate to this style.css, and our script should be loading, but it can't load before we actually create a file. So I'm gonna create a style sheet, call it style, as we have done. I'm gonna add this to here, and this is done too. And now let's test our style sheet if it works or no. For example, if for global I would say color green, and let's see if we get green color for all our stuff, and we still don't. Now let's see why our style sheet is not loading. And let's go to our plugin and first, and what I see here inside load is should not be equal but just single line. That's why I think it was not loading. Now going back to our page, it's reloaded already and it's green, so it's good, but I don't actually need this to be green. So let's remove this style, I don't need this, and start styling our this part. So what I am first gonna do, I'm gonna put this text area inside a flex container. So let's do something like this, text area flex container, hitting tab, and I'm gonna close div right after text area, and I'm gonna also add class for our text area. So let's call it flex object. I'm gonna save the value, go to our CSS file. Let's copy this one and start adding styles. So our container is gonna be a flex container, display flex. And now let's add styles for our flex object inside our style.css. And it's gonna be flex 1, which means it's gonna take all the width possible, and the height is gonna be, let's say, 200 pixels. And I suppose it's gonna be more beautiful if we go and reload the page. Yeah, it's a bit better, but let's add something more to our flex object. Let's add the margins from top and the bottom. From top and the bottom it's gonna be 20 pixels and 0 from left and right. Reloading the page, and yeah, everything. First is subject space. Yeah, probably the space is coming because of this. I'm not gonna actually leave spaces, so let's put everything on the same line. So let's see if everything is correct. I'm gonna add some more lines so as I can see it. And yeah, I think everything is cool. Now if I reload the page, these spaces should be gone. Yeah, everything is correct except the fact that nothing is really being saved to database. Actually, it can't happen at this moment, so because we did not actually create a function. Now what I wanna do at this stage to understand if we submitted this, we are gonna write a function which is gonna handle the form right below. So we called it just submitted, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I did not do that part yet, but now let's do it together. Just right inside our form, let's add a hidden input field by tapping input and tapping tab, and it's ready. I'm gonna just change this to hidden and give it a name of just submitted. And I'm gonna give it a value 2, which is gonna be true, just so as we can post something and not get an error. And right above our h1, our format under h1, I'm gonna open my PHP tags and then close them. And here I'm gonna use conditional logic. So I'm gonna tell if we have posted, give me a second, yeah, if we have posted this hidden input field, the name of which is just submitted, and if the posted value is equal to true, then we are gonna call a function which is gonna save the value to the database. So I'm gonna put it here true, and then yeah, here we are done. And if it's true, I'm gonna call this, I'm gonna call that function, which in this case is used by calling this keyword and the name, which I'm gonna call it handle form. This is it, the function is called, and yet the function does not exist yet. So let's copy this line, actually only this part of the code and start creating our function. So let's call it and here what I'm gonna do, first let's check if everything works correctly. So let's call WordPress function update option, which accepts two parameters. First is the name of the option, which we actually called plugin verse to filter, and instead of value I'm gonna have the posted value. So let's see how this works. Let's check how it works and then think about security, and we are gonna pass the same line of code here again too. So let's save this. I may have a saved value from the one before, the plugin before. You see here the previous values player 1 and glad, and I'm gonna change this glad and happy and for yes, and let's see if the data is being saved. And right after I click select, and you see happy and for yes are coming too, which is pretty much good. Let me just fix and put comma instead in here. Now we are done with this part, so the value is being saved to database, but let's just not forget about security. First of all, I want to escape HTML in all the areas where I'm kind of trusting human input. We shall never do that. It doesn't matter if we trust that person or no. And the other thing that we are going to have done is getting protection from cross-site request forgeries. And what does that mean? It's when someone sends a page which has pre-filled data, and when someone tries to submit, they submit the data he has sent, which sometimes used to get accounts like in Facebook. So, but there is a pretty solid protection from it, which is nonce code. So it's pretty simple to call. And how we do is calling WP nonce field, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it's being, yeah, it has two parameters. First is action, so let's call it filter verify, and the name, let's say filter verification. Maybe you won't get it what these arguments are doing, but you will understand in a couple of minutes. Verification. So it's saved. We are good with this. And what we can do with this nonce field, we are gonna use conditional logic actually to before we verify and update an option. So here's how we are gonna make our verification. I'm gonna call WordPress function WP verify nonce, which first accepts the value submitted, and second we need to change the actually the name of the get the value in here. I'm just having some error inside my microphone. I believe it's good now. So here instead of nonce, I am gonna get the posted value. Just give me a second, I'm getting a phone call. Sorry for the delay, I just got an important phone call. And now let's see what we are doing. First of all, we need to get the posted value, which is being done by the name filter verification, and the second is the name of the action, so it's filter verify. And only if we are gonna have this, only then let's have the ability to update the option, which is, I think, the whole idea behind what's happening in here. And on the top of that, what I would like to have is one more verification. So I'm gonna do it like this, and just in case someone breaks into account or hacks in the website. So I'm gonna call current user can, and this is the capability, and I want the capability of manage options, and this is what tells WordPress that I have the authority to update any kind of value in here. And now let's try to check what we have done together. Now when I try to reload the page, let's inspect it, and we are going to see a value. This is our nonce, the one we have been talking about. So if I suddenly try to change the nonce value, nothing will be submitted. We can try this in if logic when we write an else function. What happens if we are wrong? So let's write here else, and what I want to do, I want to output some HTML in both cases actually, both when we are correct and we get option updated, and second when we are not. So for this I'm gonna be out from PHP in here and gonna be back to PHP right before the closing tag, and here I'm gonna output some HTML with the class updated, which is a WordPress class, so we don't actually need to put and write any code for this. Is already written before us. So I'm gonna write here your options have been updated. And in other case, when we have this error, I'm gonna output a message. So this time it's gonna have a class of error. Let's see, yeah. And here I'm gonna say your options are not valid, which is gonna pretty much do the job. So if I reload the page now, if I save it, yeah, our option have been updated. So information was saved to our database, and see, we did actually nothing. It's all defaults of WordPress. And currently, if I try to actually change any nonce value so as they don't match, so give me, and if I save changes, I'm gonna have our error message. Now what we can do? Now we can start really changing the world. So if it's player1 and glad in here, after we create the function, they need to be changed by the word we choose. So to reach this effect, I'm gonna open our PHP storm, and right on the top where I installed admin menu, I'm gonna add another action. Or I think it should be filter, yeah, because I'm actually filtering. And it's gonna be for the content, and we are creating a function for the content in here and call it replacement text. And we are done with this part, except for the fact that we really don't want this filter to be called if we don't have any value inside our filter word content. So what we can do in here, we can say if get option, and the name of the option that we chose is plugins word to filter. So we are going to call this filter only in case we actually have this true, which means if this has a value. If no, this filter won't even be called. For now, let's copy this replacement text and go down just to the last part and create the function for that. And I'm gonna create it here, and let's just fix typos. Public function, and here I'm gonna give it an argument of content, because what actually the content argument, because it's a function for content hook. It means we have content available for us in face of this argument. And what I'm gonna do here, so first I'm gonna create a variable called bad words, and for those words I'm gonna explode the code, which is like making an array of objects. And the way we are doing this, we pass first argument, the one which is gonna be the separator for us, and yeah, the same is hinted by our PHP storm. And the second one is the one that we want to separate. So in our case, it's get option. We are going to get all the information, the string, from our option called plugin words to filter. And actually right now we have it for sure. But before that, before we move to changing the text, let's also trim it. So let's call it trimmed bad words in case user has left some spaces, but anyway, but we removed it. But additional security is never bad. So I'm gonna do array map, especially if this trimming is for each of those words, not for the whole string. So I'm gonna use trim to trim the data, and as a second argument I'm gonna pass our bad words. I'm gonna copy this name of variable and paste it here. So we are done for this part. And finally our return value. So this function shall return something. We are gonna return the changed text. So in a return we are gonna use ctr replace, which kind of accepts 3 arguments. So first is the one where to search for those words. So we have saved them in this trimmed bad words. So let's pass it in here. The second one is what to replace it with. Let's say hello. Before this is, we are doing this right now hello, then we will change it for the real human input. So, and the third argument is gonna be the subject, which means where to search it, where to change it. So in our case it's the content. And if we save this right now and go back to our page where we have our play and run and glad, if you reload, it's got hello and hello and hello. So congratulations, we were able to reach another milestone together. Now let's try to do actually the last part, which is having a second submenu, which is gonna be specially for an exchange word in those cases. So instead of hello and hello and hello, we can have our own word in here and not to have it hard coded. So the first thing that we are gonna do for sure is adding this another submenu page, and I think we can keep the parent slug, and let's try to see if I remember it correctly, but it should be correct. So let's call this replacement text. And the menu title, let's call it replacement text 2. Manage options is okay. Menu slug, I think we can keep the menu slug for now, but am I correct, or shall I reload the page? Yeah, replacement text, and it's kind of does the same job right now. Yeah, I think we can keep the slug, except now we want to change actually the function which is outputting the data. So in our case, let's in this case say, for example, replacement options. Let's save it. And now we should be able to get an empty page. But where actually we got the problem? Yeah, probably we need to change the slug in this case. Give me a second. Word filter replacement. So this should solve the problem, I think. If I go here, we are having a problem. Now it's correct. It's word filter, now word filter replacement. So we are calling this, which is an invalid callback. I believe I made the same mistake somewhere. Somewhere I'm calling a function which does not exist. I think that's the only problem in this case. So let's create this function, replacement options, and I'm gonna create it right below. And I'm gonna output here. I'm gonna be out of PHP and get back to PHP in 59th line and type here hello. And if I reload the page, the hello comes in front of us. Yeah, it's correct. Here we have word filter and here we have just hello. And now we can really start working, and as usually we are doing, we have just three functions to create in here. The first, we need to add settings section, but in this case we don't need this part, and we are gonna call the function for HTML later. So this is the right approach. Add settings section, and then we need to add the setting fields too. So let's get back to this semicolon and start writing our details. So first thing that is gonna be as an ID, I'm gonna call it replacement text section. Let's continue to second argument, which is the title. Let's call it replacement title. Or better, let's hard code with an HTML, and I'm gonna keep this null. I'm gonna keep the third argument null too. We don't need callback actually in here. And the third one, if I'm not mistaken, the page, let's call it replacement page. Now it's all saved, and the next step for us is registering a setting. And for registering the setting is first is gonna be our option group, which I think we can currently give the name we want. Let's call it replacement fields. There is nothing conjuncted. And now the second one, it should be the option name, and let's call it replacement text. We don't need other parameters for here, they are not obligatory. And now let's register settings field. Yeah, something is wrong. I'm having a typo. Yeah, it should be add settings field. That's why I'm having a problem. Okay, the first one is gonna be ID, and ID is gonna be, let's say, replacement text. For the title of the field, let's call it filtered text to filter. Third argument is gonna be an array with a function where we need to output our HTML. So let's call here this, and the name of the function, or let's call it replacement HTML. And now the last two parts, and one of them is gonna be our page. Let's call it first filter replacement. And the last one is gonna be the section, so it's gonna match the ID. So let's paste this here and create an HTML function as well, public function. The name is gonna be a replacement HTML. Let's fix this and start putting here some HTML code. I'm gonna close PHP, open PHP in here, and write here hello and see what it looks like. On line 27 we got a problem, so where is the problem? 27? I don't actually see any problem in here. So fourth filter, somewhere we got a problem, so let me go back. Yeah, I mean, let's fix this word filter. Why it should be fourth actually. It's just a mistake, so let's rename this. And yeah, the reason is here. Let's actually delete this line. I even don't know why it's here. Let's remove it. Remove this file at all. We never actually needed this file. But where is the problem? Yeah, let's fix it here too. Yeah, we'll rename the file later. So it is in Vault filter on line 77. What we got on line 77? Yeah, we forgot the semicolon. Happy me. And yeah, it's empty, which essentially means that something I did wrong. It's okay here. In replacement texts we are having a problem, so let's see what's the reason of this problem. Well, there should be no problem at all. It just I did not put the code to use everything that is going on here. So inside our HTML, let's start by creating a div with a class of wrap, and inside that wrap let's start putting our form. So let's first is gonna be our form with action, which is gonna handle to by options .php, and it's gonna be have method of post, so the rest goes inside the form. And here we are gonna have we are gonna have PHP running for us. Let's call it like this. And inside here we are gonna first call settings error. So every time we submit, and if there is problem, it is gonna let us know about it. So yeah, but I think I'm making a mistake. So in this part, but why it's not running like that? Yeah, I think it should be okay. It just seems to me I'm just a bit tired now. Tot hesa verčastný millipercent. Now getting back here, we need to have here our settings field. I'm wondering why isn't my PHP Storm suggesting me anything. Usually it needs to suggest me something, and here we are gonna need to put as an argument. Yeah, something is buggy in what I'm doing, but yeah, let's continue until I find out. So it's gonna be the name of the setting, so it should be I think the name of this group is gonna be coming inside here, and the other one is gonna be do settings section. And yeah, and here we need to pass again one argument, which, if I'm not mistaken, needs to be the page, not to get any errors. And also we need to have the submit button. So this time WordPress is gonna take care for us. Let's save it, and we don't have anything yet. And yeah, we have an error. This needs to run actually, but yeah, I forgot this small question mark, and probably we should be okay now. But do settings sections, yeah, I mean, this is what needs to be done, and now WordPress helps us, so it's correct. I gave options replacement fields, yeah, group is correct, and the name of the page, which we have again. And now if I reload the page, still happens nothing. Yeah, now it's not okay. But let's output an h1 tag at least before we make any decisions about to understand if our function is actually being called. And let's call it replacement text. Yeah, actually I did not do the HTML part yet. So I'm wrong in something in this part. I mixed the places of functions. Let's go up. And probably the first mistake is that I did not call this options function in the right area, because when we register this stuff, they need to go by admin init, not being called from somewhere else. So let's do this admin init, and second, and pass the arguments as an array. So I'm gonna follow the same logic, and now we are probably done with this. And here we called our replacement options, which is already good. Now let's see where else I'm using them. So I'm calling them here too, but here I need instead to call replacement HTML. So give me a second, try to remember where each one needs to be called. This is like happens when you mix the things, when you mix up the things. So let's see. So this needs to call replacement options. Replacement. And I think probably the problem is that, let me find the function replacement HTML. this needs to go in the area where we add the sub menu. So where did we add the sub menu? So let's, yeah, so this needs to come here, or better, let's check again. Also, I made a couple of mistakes in here. First of all, I needed to call this replacement options from admin init, and this HTML was needed to be called from our submenu page. So here is where actually the real HTML needs to come. So let's make one right now. Let's call it in here input HTML, and here is where we are really going to put the data, and I'm gonna copy the name and put it instead of this place, and probably we should be okay with actually no mistakes left. So I'm gonna have an input inside here with the type of text, but before that, to avoid, let's work correctly with PHP, and I'm gonna hit type input and hit tab to get our text area, and the name is going to be replacement text, or actually name needs to check. So let's see if we are doing it correctly, because the name needs to be matching some of the fields. So if I am not mistaken, it needs to match the option name. Let's copy this line and paste it here, and then we are gonna give it a value. And the default value is gonna be the one from database. So as when the user types some opens it, they see the real value, not what they have typed before, and that's why I'm gonna type here 3 stars like this, and I'm gonna tell them what to do inside HTML. Again, I'm gonna do p tags and daylight leave blank, not to echo anything or anything instead. So if I go and reload the page, I still get an error. So it's on line 17. And let's see where the error comes from. Probably. So let's see what it tells us. Call to undefined function admin init, which actually can't be undefined. So I need to understand. So, but we called replacement options, or probably we are wrong with this. So what we needed to have in here was this function, which actually kind of exists. Let's save again and see what's the reason of having the error. And call to undefined function need in, so we are having two same errors. So let's understand why actually we don't get it the right way. Yeah, and yeah, I probably should not stop coding in the evening time when I'm tired, but why did I write here admin init instead of add action? Yeah, let's reload and deal with another error. So call to the settings error. So on line 92. Let's go and understand. Yeah, probably it needs to be in plural form. Settings, errors, and reloading. Save changes. Settings saved, except the fact we got some part, but actually we did not get the HTML yet. So let's see why we are missing that too. So I think we did do this input HTML, and we should have had that with. And I think the problem is that instead the pages don't match in here. The pages all the areas need to match. So if it says part filter replacement, it needs to be the same for the section. So this is how the hierarchy shall work. And that's moving to here, and we have that. If we save this and we reload, let's see if we got it. Actually it's saved. Let's try to go to database and see how actually all that looks like. Yeah, with the FF everything correct. Now it just stays one thing to do before we finish with everything. So here, instead of hello, I'm gonna do get option, put your replacement text. Before that I will escape HTML actually. And now if I reload the page, actually this part with the FF everything was perfect, except one more thing to fix here. We need to get the actual value. Let's see why we are not getting it yet. If we go to our input, actually where is our input? Just a second, and we are almost done. So it should be somewhere. Yeah. Okay, so we got the option. Probably I have typo in here, maybe. Don't think so, but let's try. We are not actually getting an actual value. There is a typo somewhere there, that's for sure. The problem is, where is the typo? So yeah, I don't echo it. So after echoing, it's done. And if I update, finally one more plugin developed. A bit errors in the end, but that happens especially when working in late hours. So stay tuned for more videos, and of course I'm gonna put the link to GitHub of actual plugins, so as you can practice on your own too. Bye, see you later.